Well, welcome to Gender Reveal, the weekly spot where binary spokeswoman Kirralie Smith reveals the truth about gender. Kirralie, welcome. You've been highlighting the injustice for girls and women's soccer in New South Wales, where biological males are dominating. Now, we've got some footage taken by well-known Sydney cameraman Chris de Bruin, known on social media as Chris Coveries. Check him out. Now, this is footage of a recent Flying Bats soccer match. Talk us through what we are seeing here.
Yeah, look, this was just another game where the Flying Bats, dominated by male players, thrashed the girls. And as you can see on the screen, these guys are, head and shoulders literally above all the girls. They're faster, they're stronger, they're taller. But all of that aside, even if they were small fellas, they're still fellas. They're still blokes. And, no man should be playing in a female competition. And this is what, I'm upset about, what so many of the girls are upset about, what their parents are upset about, and what New South Wales football are refusing to acknowledge or deal with, and it's really upsetting for all of us.
Yeah, it sure is. What struck me, Kirralie, is that the Flying Bats have got the rainbow flag and transgender political messages stitched into their jerseys. They're flaunting the fact that they are defying biology and putting these biological males in front of girls as if it's normal.
Well, the really sad thing about it, Lyle, is that club was actually set up as a lesbian football club, and now they're being dominated by males. They're, I know some of the women have actually left the club as a result of that. They've self-excluded, which is happening over and over again. We hear, oh, no one's complaining. Well, that's because they're threatened with fines and legal action if they do. So they self-exclude. These lesbians in the club that wanted a female-only space have now been overrun by males. There's women who aren't in the Premier League because these males are in the Premier League. Some girls in other clubs, we found out, this week, actually, have just requested to be moved down a division. They deserve to be in the Premier League, but they don't want to play there anymore because they have to play against these men. So it's really disturbing what's happening. And once lesbian club is now dominated by men. So
ironic, Kirralie. The Flying Bats have also won a Pride in Sports event, an award. Why is it then that this LGBTIQA plus political movement is celebrating the subjugation of girls and women?
Yeah, it's really, really confronting. Girls are being humiliated week in and week out with, 12-0 losses against this team. They've won an award for being, a great community club, and it's really unfair. As I said, women have had to self-exclude. They have no voice. They have no right of appeal. They have no pathway of opposition. And now these men are being awarded for their actions. It sounds very misogynistic to me, Lyle, and very upsetting.
It sure is. Well, look, this political movement continues to overreach, and we've seen that in the UK, where there's been some more good news. Tell us what the latest is from Britain's National Health Service.
Well, I guess it's good news, but it's just absurd. It's just crazy. Yeah. The headline, shouts at us that sex is a biological fact. And you're like, yes, we know that. We've always known that. All throughout history, in every culture, we know that sex is a biological fact. But politicians have forced medical practitioners into this bizarre situation where they actually have to write it into the National Health Service of Britain that sex is now a biological fact. Like, really? This is so ridiculous, but it's what's happening. And, these politicians both in Britain and in Australia have legislated lies. It's as crazy as saying that, crocodiles are now like puppy dogs and every play group should have one. Just because you write something into law doesn't make it true. Now we've come full circle and the NHS is having to write in their constitution, oh, actually, sex is biological.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. It was good to see also the Health Secretary, the equivalent of the UK's Health Minister, Victoria Atkins, saying that chest feeding is also going to be outlawed as part of this new change to the NHS Constitution. Yet here in Australia, we lag behind, and there's been revelations this week in the media that our child gender clinics, which are still prescribing puberty blockers to children who are gender confused, unlike the NHS, which banned that just a few weeks ago. But we're hearing in the news now that places like Maple Leaf House at Newcastle are not keeping proper medical records. What's going on?
Oh, this is really disturbing, Lyle. Almost a 1,000 teenagers have sought out services at Maple Leaf in the last couple of years, and there's no accurate records about cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers. That's very alarming. The New South Wales Health Minister is refusing to rectify this situation. That should be the very basic, like the very base of what should be happening at these clinics. We should be keeping accurate data on the ages, the biological sex, what medications these children are being given. Especially in light of the Cass report, especially in light of so many countries banning these practices, this should be rectified immediately, and people should be held to account for this gross oversight. I think it's deliberate, but that's speculation.
Yeah, quite ironic, because this was brought to the media's attention by Labor's New South Wales Upper House Member of Parliament, Legislative Council, Greg Donnelly, a great champion for family values and pro-life. He's brought this to the attention of his own government, yet his own health minister is refusing to take any action. We'll keep an eye on this story, but kudos to Greg Donnelly. Kirralie, also disturbingly here, there were more revelations in this week's Australian newspaper, and good on them for reporting this issue. But the number of children identifying as non-binary is up. The number of school students identifying as neither male nor female is now 20 times higher than before the pandemic. This is data released by the Australian Curriculum Assessment and Reporting Authority, showing that 2,560 students enrolled as non-binary last year, up from 128 in 2019. This is a fad, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's no different to the emos, the goths, even the eating disorders that you and I grew up with, through high school. It is a trend. It is a fad. We don't record personalities, types, or our Myers-Briggs, whatever it is. And it's just an expression that teenagers have at the moment. It's trendy to rebel against your parents, to rebel against, the state, whatever it is. But unfortunately, with this one, it's going to do great harm, because this kind of social conditioning and social transitioning often does lead to very harmful, irreversible, catastrophic drug taking and surgical procedures and psychological damage that's being done that's really hard to reverse. And so this needs to be discussed, this needs to be exposed, and this needs to be rectified immediately before more harm is done.
Yeah, again, it's ironic given what we've just talked about with the NHS in the UK. What also disturbed me, Kirralie, was in that same media report about the school children numbers being up, is that teachers are being told to avoid using terms like girls and boys. What's your advice to a school teacher who knows the truth about gender, but who's forced to change the way he or she speaks about biological reality?
Stop waiting for somebody else to do the right thing and do the right thing. This is based on truth. There is no biological, scientific, or any evidence whatsoever that anyone can change their sex or be something other than the sex they were born. And so speak the truth, speak up. You're not alone. The vast majority of Australians and teachers feel the same way. And you are meant to be educating children. If you go along with these lies, if you enforce these lies, then I'm sorry, you're complicit and you're part of the problem. So man up, be an adult, and speak up, and let's get this changed sooner rather than later, because it's not just, the emo or goth thing. You can change your makeup, you can change your hair, you can change your clothes. But if these kids go down these irreversible pathways, they're left with a lot of damage. And this is very, very serious. It's not something that we should be messing around with.
Kirralie, I agree with you. What you're asking teachers to do, though, is essentially to put their jobs on the line. They would be sacked if they refused to comply with this forced speech.
Well, there's unions and there's groups and there's strength in numbers. So get together with other teachers and do this. And, I guess I'm at a point, Lyle, like you, have been dragged through the courts and still facing court for these things. And I think the cost is worth it because, like I said, too many kids are going to lose their futures, lose their fertility, maybe even lose their lives. And I think it's worth the cost for us to stand up and do what's right.
Yeah, look, obviously I agree, and it is costly, but the good thing, as you and I both know, is that there's thousands of people who will get behind those of us who take a stand, and I'm sure if there were some teachers who did that and it became public, they lost their jobs, I reckon Australians would get behind them and back them to the hilt, and they'd end up on the winning side eventually. But we're going to need a few people to rush the guards and make a breakout, but if we all do it together. Kirralie, thank you again for your time. A lot of stuff there. Let's hope Football New South Wales takes a look at that footage and that we see some change. We'll talk again next week here on Gender Reveal. Thanks, Kirralie Smith.
Thanks, Lyle.